Hello everyone and welcome to the daily newspaper analysis which is brought to you by LawSikho. Happy Saturday to all of you. I hope you're all doing fine. So today we have a very interesting editorial that has been picked up from the Hindu newspaper which talks about the representation of women in the parliament of India. So basically talks about the gender equality when it comes to the legislatures or when it comes to generally the representation of women as well. Secondly, we have the news update for our prelims exam. And thirdly, we have the legal news for our daily latest case laws as well. Before moving further, I'd like to congratulate the students who have given the right answer in yesterday's newspaper analysis. So congratulations to you, Samrat Goyal, Aksa Azmi, Anindo Chatterjee, Arjun. Yes, and that will be all. And with this, guys, let me inform you that yes, the full form of SARC is South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. And it is very great that Aksa has actually given more of information about it. Very good, Aksa. Then, yes, guys, repo rate is called as the interest rate of the Reserve Bank of India. So the rate at which the Reserve Bank gives money to the other commercial banks, that interest rate is called as the repo rate. Thank you so much, guys, for answering. You all are great. All right, let's move with the discussion of today's article, which talks about a man's parliament striving for an inclusive India. And here, specifically by being inclusive, we mean inclusivity for women as such. So in 1952, when, of course, India and the Indian Republic basically held its first parliamentary session, 39 strong, intelligent, and passionate women leaders sat in the hallowed halls of power, challenging a centuries-old tide of men's dominance over the polity. Now, if at all, guys, you also have seen that the Constitutional Assembly debates, there are also some pictures, kind of, or movies that have been made on this. The Constitutional Assembly debate, short films of that sort, you might be able to see that there are some prominent women who are taking part, who are very strongly taking part in those debates. So at that time also, there were 39 women in the Indian legislature. Now, at that time, when women all over the world were fighting for representation for approximately 1.1 to 1.7% in the suffrage, India was leading the way with 5.5% women representation in its legislature. But do you think that 5.5 even till date is enough? Should we have not made a good and significant growth later on after more than 70 years of independence? That should have been the case, but unfortunately that has not happened. So despite all of this, the Parliament of India continues to be primarily a workspace for men. The burgeoning demand to acknowledge inclusivity was further emboldened in the case of National Legal Services Authority versus Union of India. That is a case of 2014. Please, guys, you can note this case down. This can help you in your essay writing as well, wherein if at all, if something comes up regarding, gender parity or representation of women in the government sector or in the legislature, you can definitely quote this case, that is National Legal Services Authority versus Union of India. So people have also started specifying their pronouns, wherein I'll give you an example. Usually when we say that the citizens of the country do so and do this and that, and a person who is doing so generally, guys, what we do is that instead of the person in this, sometimes we use the terms like he who commits such crime. So generally we take he as in a male character in our minds, but now generally you might be able to see that we have started using different kinds of pronouns. Like, for example, the President of India is the head of the state. She has so and so power. So instead of he, what we use now, like we have started using she, but you also know that this has still not come up into the general trend, and we still are using he as a normal common pronoun. Now, the Parliament remains largely oblivious to these developments, specifically as I was discussing that we'll be discussing about the representation of women in the Parliament. As you know, guys, that 30% reservation for women, it is still pending amongst the members of the Parliament, because obviously the people who have to pass, the members of the Parliament who have to pass this law, majority of them are men. So probably they do not want to hinder their own presence or their own number in the Parliament, and thus it is pending for more than 10, 20, or maybe 30 years, if I'm not wrong. So the language used inside the Parliament is predominantly male, which gives rise to female MPs being called as chairman madam. You must have very commonly heard of this, that chairman madam. So they we do not use chairwoman or something. Rather, we think that chairman is one thing, and then we just put a suffix of madam. You must have also heard of terms that we use like madam sir. So that way, so these are the things that bring down the morale, definitely. So the steps taken by ex-speaker Meera Kumar to amend all rules of procedure of Lok Sabha to make them gender neutral shows the steps that have already been established, but they have not been followed as yet. So countries like Canada, Australia, and even the United States have recognized universal suffrage way later than India, but still they have managed to include gender diversity and use gender neutral language. But unfortunately, India, amongst the the flag bearers of universal adult suffrage, we had the universal adult suffrage from the very beginning of our constitution, but still, despite that, we have not been able to increase the representation of women in our institutions. So in the 21st century, when people of all genders are leading the world with compassion, strength, and ambitions, the Indian Parliament needs to reflect on its standing, and definitely we should be doing something in this direction. With this, let's see what do we have for the news updates today. Firstly, Gujarat becomes first state to launch Balika Panchayat. This is an important one. So Gujarat is the first state in the country to launch Balika Panchayat. Prime Minister Modi has laid stress on women-led development instead of women's development, which is actually a very good initiative. So Balika Panchayat is a step in this direction. Presently, the girls participating in the panchayat elections not only vote for their own leader, they rather also participate in the electioneering, highlighting their aspirations and needs clearly, which will definitely make them politically sound. And as we were just discussing in the previous editorial, that we need to give such representation to the women. This definitely is one of the steps in the right direction. They will be very politically sound here, and thus they can move forward and maybe on the later stage can think of becoming members of the parliament as well. Second, 14th BRICS Summit to be held in Beijing. So the 14th Summit of BRICS nations, so Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. I was rather going to ask you this question, but it already is there. So it will be held in Beijing on June 23rd via video link. The Chinese Foreign Ministry has recently announced. And China is this year's chair for the BRICS. Thirdly, FATF retains Pakistan on the grey list. So Global Financing Watchdog, which is called as the FATF, the full form of FATF, guys, is Financial Action Task Force, said on Friday that Pakistan will continue to stay on its grey list, and a final decision shall only be considered after an on-site verification by FATF. Basically, what happens is that FATF has various lists, and according to the terrorism or according to the money laundering or terror financing that takes place. So according to that, various countries are put up into different lists. Pakistan is there in the grey list of FATF for about more than 3 to 4 years now. And if it continues so, it can be moved to the blacklist as well, wherein it will be very difficult for Pakistan to take any kinds of loans or do any kind of international tradings with various kinds of international institutions. So that is how the FATF functions. Now here is a question for you all. Pause this video, guys. Let me know in the comment section whether or not India is a member of FATF. If you know, let me know in the comment section. Let's see, what do we have for legal updates today? Firstly, Article 14 does not envisage equal treatment for unequals, says the Calcutta High Court, and it upholds the eligibility criteria for government school principals. Now, as we know, that when we talk about Article 14, it talks about equality only amongst the equals, and it says that it is not necessary that the unequals should also be treated equally. That is why we have the provision of reasonable restrictions, and this was also held in the case of Pranati, Aguan versus State of West Bengal and others. Secondly, Court Fees Act, market value does not become decisive of valuation merely because litigation involves immovable property, says the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court held that the nature of relief claimed by a plaintiff is decisive of the valuation of the suit. Market value cannot be held as decisive of the suit merely because the subject matter of the litigation is an immovable property. This was held in the case of Bharat, Bhushan, Gupta versus Pratap, Narain, Verma, and another. This was all for today. Thank you so much. We hope you liked it. If you did, do not forget to like the session. Also, you may subscribe to our channel for such more updates to come. If you wish to download the PDF of today's slides, you can join a Telegram channel. The link is there in the description box below, or you can simply scan the QR code that is available over here. Thank you so much.